Welcome back. It's Mrs. Schreiber again. And today we're going to do a lesson on nonfiction and Welcome back. It's Mrs. Schreiber again. Welcome back. It's Mrs. Schreiber again. And today we're going to do a lesson on nonfiction and we're going to continue on that with topic and main idea. So before we get started, let's look at our Go Noodle and get ourselves calm, alert, and ready to learn.
This exercise will teach you how to gain control of your stressful energy when it gets too high to handle. Close your eyes, listen, and follow along. Or keep your eyes open and follow along that way. It's up to you. Sit tall. You can be on the ground with your legs crossed, or in your chair with your feet flat on the floor. Now imagine that you can look up and see the sky. And up in the sky, way up in the sky, is a balloon. If you'd like, you can choose a color for your balloon. Keep the picture of the balloon in your mind. The balloon's string reaches all the way down to your hands. Hold on to the string. Imagine that you can feel the pull of that big balloon. Imagine that the wind pushes it from side to side. Or imagine that the wind actually tries to pull the balloon higher into the sky. Maybe you can feel the gentle tugging of the string in your hands. Now try to bring your balloon down. Be careful to go slowly. You don't want the fragile string to break from pulling too hard or too quickly. Take your time. Imagine that you can gently pull the string, hand over hand. The string collects in a pile at your feet. Hand over hand, pull after gentle pull. The balloon appears to come closer. It might even become easier to bring it down in your mind as it gets closer to you. Keep bringing it down, closer and closer. Some other strings might be longer or shorter than yours, and that's okay. Just bring it down at your speed. Focus on your balloon. Keep bringing it down. Your colorful balloon may now be within your reach. Pretend that you do not need to use the string anymore. You can actually hold the balloon between your hands. Notice if you can feel the balloon in your hands. Be gentle. Imagine that with your next out-breath, you can open your hands and release your balloon. Let it go. Notice in your mind where it goes. It could be different for everyone. Just remain still for a few more moments and watch your balloon drift away.
All right, now that we're calm, alert, and ready to learn, let's get started. Okay, we're going to continue with some word work, and like we have been practicing with our word work, we've been looking at homophones and antonyms and synonyms, and today we're going to work with some words and look at the ending sounds. We know, and I know last time we talked about ending sounds that had the k sound, and the K, the CK, and the IC. Today we're going to look at ending sounds FLE, PLE, BLE, and DLE. And I'm going to say a word, and then I want you to shout out at home which column you think that that word should belong in. All right, are you ready? The first word is table. Table. We sat down at the table. Which column do you think it belongs in? If you said BLE, you are correct. table. The next word is people. People. The people were walking down the street. People. What column do you think it belongs in? If you said PLE, you are correct. The next word is maple. Maple syrup is made from the sap of the maple tree. Maple. What column do you think it belongs in? Shout it out. If you said PLE, you are correct. You're doing a great job. The next word is doodle. She doodled on her paper with her pencil. Doodle. Which column do you think the word doodle belongs in? If you said DLE, you are correct. The next word is trifle. Trifle is a dessert. Trifle. Which column does it belong in? If you said FLE, you are correct. The next word is trouble. Remember, we're listening for those ending sounds. Trouble. The dog was in trouble for chewing on the shoe. Trouble. If you said BLE, you are correct. The next word is stifle. The heat was stifling. Stifle. Which ending sound do you hear? If you said FLE, you are correct. The next word is fable. Fables have a moral in their story. Fable. Which word ending do you hear in the word fable? If you said BLE, you are correct. The next word is waffle. The girl ate her waffle, all gone. Waffle. Which ending sound do you hear? Waffle. If you said FLE, you are correct. The next word is cradle. The girl rocked her baby in the cradle. Which column does the word belong in? If you said DLE, you are correct. The next word is ruffle. Her dress had a ruffle on the bottom. Ruffle. Which ending sound do you hear? If you said FLE, you are correct. The next word is needle. You need a needle and thread to sew a button. Needle. Which ending sound do you hear? If you said DLE, you are correct. The next word is staple. The teacher used a staple to hang my paper. Staple. Which ending sound do you hear? If you said PLE, you are correct. The next word is couple. I have a couple of books I need to read. Couple. Which ending sound do you hear? If you said PLE, you are correct. The next word is stable. The horses are in the stable to stay safe from the storm. Stable. Which ending sound do you hear? If you said BLE, you are correct. And the last word is noodle. Spaghetti is a type of noodle. Which ending sound do you hear? If you said DLE, you are correct. Way to go in working so hard with your words today. Now let's look at our fluency passage. Remember, we are going to read smoothly, read with expression, read with meaning, and read just at the right speed. We're going to be reading an excerpt from No Food to Be Found. And remember, an excerpt is just a chunk of the whole passage. While I'm reading this passage, and I want you to follow along, you can read with me. See if you notice, if you can hear or see any of the ending sounds that we just practiced with the FLE, the PLE, the BLE, and the DLE on the ends of words. They waited until the middle of the night so none of the people would see them. Then Chip and Josh found a group of their rat and cat friends. The group huddled together in the alley to discuss the plan. Chip said to the group, "We've got to be very quiet. If we make too much of a racket, the people will wake up. They don't want us around, so if they hear us, we'll be in trouble." Chip and I found this big pile of tangled cable. It took a long time, but we were able to untangle it. I am going to tie the cable to the handle at the top of the trash can next to the dumpster, Josh explained. So let's look back and see if we can find any of those ending sounds like we just practiced. I see one in the very first sentence, the word middle. See the DLE on the end. I also see the word people. That was one of the words that we used as an example. People with a PLE. And huddled, it has the D on the end, but that's showing us it's past tense. But the DLE right there at the very end of that word is like what we practiced. Another word, people, and trouble. Trouble was also in what we just practiced and I gave you as an example word. The word tangled and untangle, which means untangle means you got it undone, so it's not tangled up in a mess anymore. And then cable with the BLE and handle with the DLE. So again, we found some words while we were reading that were matching that ending sound that we were practicing. All right, let's get started with some of our reading today. We're going to focus on RN 2.2, which says to identify the main idea of multi-paragraph text and the topic of each paragraph. So today, I can identify the main idea and topic of a paragraph. We're going to focus in on just a paragraph today, and then we'll continue working on this skill next time. So let's review a little bit. Topic versus the main idea. What is the topic? The topic is the big idea or subject that the author writes about. So it's one or two words. The main idea is a statement that the author makes about the topic and what the text is mostly about. And it's a sentence. So the topic is one or two words and a main idea is a whole sentence. The topic is usually a general subject and the main idea is a complete and more specific idea. And the topic is usually given in the title so that we have a hint about what we're going to be reading about. And the main idea is usually found in the text. Usually it's found in the first sentence, but also it could be found at the end of the text as well. Here's an example. So the topic would be plants, and the main idea is plants need 4 things to live. So I know that in this section, if I kept reading, it's going to tell me first they need this, and then the other 3 things that it needs. So thinking a little bit more about main idea, the main idea is what the text is mostly about. We want to look at the title and the pictures for the main idea. So we're looking at those text features. That's why they're really, really important. Sometimes the main idea is in the first or the last sentence, and we want to look for clue words repeated over and over. That last one is really important when we look for the topic. Usually when we see a word repeated over and over and over again, that's what the topic is about. So let's think about something for a second. I'm going to show you some pictures, and I want you to be thinking, what could my topic be if these were the pictures that you were given? Do you think you know yet what my topic is? My topic is soccer. That's right. Good job. So I have a soccer ball, a soccer player, and a soccer goal. So all of these things make up the topic of soccer. All right, we're going to practice. I have a couple passages and we're going to try to identify the topic and then come up with a main idea for each passage. So my first one is, ice cream is the greatest dessert. Ice cream is always sweet and delicious. It cools you down on a hot day. It comes in many different flavors like chocolate, pistachio, and cherry. You can add toppings to make an ice cream sundae or just eat it plain. Ice cream is great in a bowl, on a cone, and even with fruit. You can buy ice cream almost anywhere, and you can even make it yourself. People love ice cream because it's the most wonderful dessert. So one thing that I'm going to do first is I want to identify the words that I feel like I kept seeing and hearing over and over and over again, because that is a clue for what our topic is. So I noticed the word ice cream in the first sentence, in the second sentence. Now, I've highlighted the word it. Oftentimes the reader will read a passage and they'll notice that the author will change from the subject to maybe a pronoun word like it or they. It is still referring to ice cream. So the author doesn't want to just say ice cream, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream, although I love it. They want to continue to change up the words and use a different pronoun like it. So it is referring to the ice cream. Ice cream cools you down on a hot day. It's the same thing. So the it I highlighted was referring to the ice cream. There's another it. It's also referring to the ice cream. And then we see the word ice cream again. And ice cream, and ice cream, and more ice cream. So do you think you know what the topic of this passage is? If you said ice cream, you are correct. Now our main idea, what is the passage mostly about? Well, the passage is mostly about ice cream, obviously. But what is the author trying to help us understand? Well, the author is trying to help us understand that ice cream is the best dessert. And in our very first sentence, it says that ice cream is the greatest dessert. At the last sentence, it also says that it's the most wonderful dessert. So I know that ice cream is the best dessert, and these were all things that the author was wanting me to understand. Let's try another passage. Elephants are amazing creatures with extremely interesting noses called trunks. An elephant's trunk contains more than 40,000 muscles. The tip of an elephant's trunk is flexible and bends easily. Elephants use the tips of their trunk the same way you use your fingers. They can pick items up, tear leaves off branches, and scoop food into their mouths using their trunk. Trunks are also used for drinking water. Elephants do not drink water through their trunks. Instead, they suck up water with their trunk and squirt it into their mouths. So think about it for a second. What word or words do you feel like we heard mostly throughout the passage? Well, I'm going to go back in and highlight those words that I think I heard a lot. I heard the word trunks, an elephant's trunk, the tip of an elephant's trunk. Elephants use their trunk. They can pick up items using their trunk. Trunks are also used, and trunks with their trunk. So the topic, see if you can guess what the topic is. If you said elephant's trunk, you are correct. You could have said just trunk. I chose to write elephant's trunk because I wanted the reader to know that it was specific to that animal. And that's the animal we were talking about. We didn't talk about any other animals when we were reading that. It was just an elephant. So our main idea is, what was the author telling us that this passage was mostly about? Well, it was about the elephant's trunk and about all the things that are very interesting about it. So elephants' trunks are very interesting. We notice up here at the top, that's one of the things that the author told us was how interesting their noses called trunks were. And all of these are examples throughout this passage of how interesting the trunk is for an elephant. Again, I found my main idea from that very first sentence. The author wants to give us the main idea very soon because they want us to know exactly what we're going to be reading about. I don't want to waste my time. If I don't want to know information about an elephant's trunk, then I certainly don't want to waste my time reading the whole thing and find out at the end it was about an elephant's trunk. And let's practice one more time. Let's look at this passage, and remember, while I'm reading, I want you to think about the words you hear repeated throughout the text. Did you know that frogs and toads look alike, but they are different? Frogs need to live near the water. Frogs have long legs to help them jump. They have smooth, thick skin. They are good swimmers. Their webbed feet help them swim. Toads live on land. They have shorter legs to help them hop. Their skin is rough and dry. Toads are not good swimmers. Many people do not know the difference between frogs and toads. So what word or words did you hear repeated throughout the passage? Well, I noticed the word frogs and toads at the beginning, and I then see it starts talking about frogs and frogs. And the next sentence, they start off with they. Now remember, in the first passage that we looked at, I talked about the pronoun it, referring back to the word ice cream. In this passage, they refers back to the word frogs. So they've replaced frogs with they as a pronoun. They, again, talking and referring to the word frogs. Their webbed feet, so whose webbed feet are we talking about? We're still talking about the frogs. And then we move on to the word toads. They, referring back to toads. Their skin, referring back to the toads. Toads again. And then we come back to the words frogs and toads. So what topic do you think would be good for this passage? If you said frogs and toads, you are correct. We talked about both frogs and toads in this passage. We were contrasting or telling the differences between the two animals. So the main idea of this passage was the differences between frogs and toads. So frogs and toads look alike, but they are actually different. And we find that in our very first statement or that question in our passage that we read. All right, so let's practice. I've given you 4 passages that you're going to read through, and you're going to identify the topic and the main idea. So remember, the topic is 1 or 2 words, and it's a subject of what the passage is that you read. And then you're going to write a main idea. The main idea is a sentence about what the text is mostly about. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate all the hard work that you've done and continue to do. And remember, our secret word for the day is tiger. That's tiger. Of course, I'm sure you wouldn't have guessed it by my slides today, but it is tiger. Thank you so much again, and have a great afternoon. See you next time.